on paper, Pickles looks to be one of the most crazy characters that Reverse 99 is going to be releasing. But here's a quick rundown on what you need to know before you make the worst or best decision of your life. Okay, first and foremost, he's man's best friend. Okay, but seriously, this is definitely one of the funnier characters that they've released, and ultimately it is a PvE game, so it is kind of up to you whether or not you want to pull for the character. Certainly the gameplay, the character, and the design do kind of paint Pickles as not just a unique character in terms of storyline, what he offers to the story and how interesting the character is, but also what Pickles is capable of, not just in incoming events, but in the current limbo. Now, of course, this game isn't really about playing for the most meta or optimal thing in the entire world. It's more about playing for the story, playing for what characters you enjoy, and playing for what kind of game style or plan you want to play. I've seen plenty of teams at this point play full poison, play full crit, play what's normal, follow guides from content creators, etc, etc. So ultimately, this game is kind of how you choose to play it. If we move along though, one of the biggest pros that this character has is that you don't really have to use many of his cards just because of how his passive works. As you can see here with Proposition, it reads that when no action is taken by Pickles this round, gives the caster 1 stack of Clarified Topic, and every time the Clarified Topic is triggered, you gain 1 Moxie for the caster. The reason why Pickles passive is so important is because, as you can see with Thus Spoke Pickles, it reads that you gain 30% damage dealt increased for 2 turns across all allies. However, if he has the Clarified Topic status effect, which we just mentioned before, the duration goes up by 1 additional turn. Now, you don't necessarily have to care for this too much, but in terms of gaining value, this essentially means that you can have a 3-turn damage increase, not having to spend any time shuffling the cards up. You don't have to care about using up a slot on your card too to begin with. So of course that means you have more damage, you have more opportunities to give yourself other buffs, you have characters like Bacorn able to use their defense breaks. All in all, it's a win-win. Side note, I love Melania having a bunch of returns and you being able to use her ultimate into like the Bomb Steal Moxie or Life Steal and stuff like that. These are all maybe things that may not be the most meta, but for my eyes and what I see just eye test, it's like, wow, I stopped the character from using her ultimate, or wow, I soloed this because I healed up my whole team. Things like these that may not be the most optimal, but will get you the clear in certain clutch situations are basically what this game's all about. So having the flexibility or having the utility or just the potential to come up with situations like that or get yourself out of situations like that with the skills, cards, etc. from Pickles, great in my book. Now, the next thing that kind of makes Pickles pretty crazy is the fact that for all intents and purposes right now, we can maybe infer or pray or kind of think that part of his kit is future-proof. Now, of course, that's a zing word and we don't really know exactly what buffs or what characters are going to come out and what they're going to do. But as you can see here, Pickles has a strip. Now, strip or dispelling buffs from the enemies is a historically great or powerful concept in any gacha game for any of you that have played any. But of course, we aren't super sure how that'll be relevant, when it'll be relevant. Is there going to be a boss fight or a limbo stage or something that'll require us to strip? But even without having to guess or hypothesize what characters come out, a multi-target strip is just going to be strong since it allows you to pair characters that apply debuffs or poisons. All these things kind of stack together. You do more damage, you have more control. All in all, a great utility setup, offensive kind of character. Now, of course, there's cons, and unfortunately, he's terrible if you're a cat person. Jokes aside, although one of the things that I mentioned earlier was, well, if you like the character and if they're interesting enough to you, you should pull for them. Pickles is just a dog. And if you're looking for wacky, kind of unique, very standout-ish characters, Reverse 1999 has plenty of them. We have Door, Miss Radio, Sputnik. In terms of unique design, these characters are also pretty different. And that's not to say that the design, the backstory, or the origin story of Pickles is bad by any means, but I'm simply not surprised that there is now a dog playable character. It's cool, and I love dogs. I've always wanted a dog since I was a kid, so I'm probably gonna pull for Pickles anyways. But instead of needing to just justify that I wanted him for gameplay, it would be the first time that a dog and not some Scooby-Doo, some talking kind of dog character was introduced into a gacha game. And if we move along, the next thing I'm going to address is probably what I would consider to be the greatest flaw or fault of pulling for Pickles, which is that mental damage and content and such just in general for this game is kind of lacking when it comes to trying to build certain team compositions or trying to find the perfect team for you. Every guide that I've seen thus far or every initial early tier list has rated characters like A-Knight or Bacorn Bloom or Centurion as these god tier characters because they do a lot of damage, they are either reality based and they work really well with Bacorn, or they have some sort of true damage damage. Now with that sort of conversation, you have to consider how future-proof or how good these characters will be if you're already thinking about meta in the upcoming limbos. And well, as a debuffer, you could argue that with all the debuffs that he's going to do and the buffing that he can do, you could consider him in basically any team anyway. So even if you want to just pair him with a Genesis team or pair him with a reality team. Now in terms of how long you'd be able to play Pickles, it is known that future banners may have characters that have Genesis or may not really focus on mental damage. So in terms of pairing Pickles with these characters, you aren't necessarily getting the full maximum value. The pairing of Bloom and Eternity, for instance, allow you to have a big AoE reality damage kind of burst window. But for Pickles, outside of the damage boost, which admittedly is pretty good, you don't really synergize that well. That of course begs the question, are you going to focus on the future proofing, the current proofing? Are you trying to clear content right now with Pickles? That sort of conversation is really difficult to have. Obviously, you would love to have a character that's really good right now, but also good in the future. But having a simple conversation about something like that is extremely difficult because even with a character like A-Knight, who was the previous banner, there was plenty of debate on whether or not you should even pull for the character, despite a lot of people thinking that Bloom herself was a really great character. So it is kind of up in the air whether future-proofing or caring about clearing content right now is more important. My advice, as always with every single gacha game I play, is that if you really like the character, you should pull for them. But ultimately, based on everything that's been seen, discussed, theory crafted about the character, pulling for Pickles is not the end of the world. Now, of course, if you are trying to play Pickles, you are likely trying to play a bit more offensively. But given the fact that people do like Eternity a lot, and they do also like taking damage dealers, having the damage up in the strip on a character is really not bad by any means at all. Anyways, guys, I know this is a bit of a short one, but ultimately, long story short, guys, pull for who you want. Pickles is a pretty good character. There are characters in the future that may be more worth it than Pickles. However, it's a dog. If you really like dogs, you should pull for the character. If you don't, then you could probably wait for one of the more OP characters. There are more defensive healers, but like really good for whales and really good at endgame content kind of healers that are coming out soon. So if you prefer those characters, just wait for those characters. They're also waifus compared to the doggos. I personally like doggos, but I also like waifus, so I'm gonna try and get both and just pray to God that I'm lucky. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe. Let me know if you've been enjoying or what kind of reverse 1999 content you like to see next. Make sure to check out the rest of my platforms. I love posting about all the new gacha games that are coming out, the new characters that get teased, etc. I'll see you guys all in the next one though, guys. Adios.